are live. Happy Friday, everybody. Welcome to the Back Catalog Listening Party, your weekly musical happy hour. My name is Anthony Ihrig, one of your hosts. My other co-host, Ellen Stanley, aka Mother Banjo, is on a family trip down to Iowa today and couldn't make it. But I'm so excited to be sitting here with Vlad Messing, everybody. Coming live from his home in St. Paul, Minnesota. Hi, Vlad. How you doing?
Howdy. Good. Doing good. Thank you. Happy
Great to have
Friday.
you here.
Thank you for
Um,
having me.
this is the place we meet every week to listen to music, and it looks like some of our friends are already here. Our good friend Connie's in Richfield. Hey, Connie, nice to see you. And Alan says, "Happy Friday, everybody! I'm a sucker for Oktoberfest beers, and they're starting to show up in the stores already." Ah, Prost! Well, this is a musical happy hour after all, so thanks, Alan, for reminding us to clink our glasses. If you have it, doesn't have to be alcohol, but whatever you got in your glasses, you can raise it up. What do you got there, Vlad? Anything? Uh,
Water with a lemon.
some delicious lemon water. I've got
Yeah.
kind of I've got this. It's the Bajas Guavatron
Ooh, yeah.
in my fancy back catalog listening party pint glass, which we just got last week in time for the show. And our Patreon members will all be receiving one of these. We'll talk more about that later, but check your inboxes, Patreon members. We're going to be getting your mailing address so you can also have one of these delicious um, well, maybe not this particular beer, but you can have it in this mug, anyways. And let's see, Joe is what's Joe doing? He's sitting in the shade, waiting on a breeze near Lake of the Isles. Excellent. Thanks
Nice.
for being here, Joe. And hey, Becky Schlegel is here, our good friend Becky. Hi, Becky. Long time no see. I just got back from a trip out to Wyoming with Becky and the High 48s, and we had a wonderful time. Rolled in about 2 a.m. last night. And Chris, today is a little Irish whiskey ginger ale with orange slices. Party on.
Party on.
Excellent, Chris. Man, people are just ready for Friday, I think, today, Vlad. Dave's got a ginger beer ready for the show. Well, thanks, Dave. Thanks for being here, everybody. Cheers to you. Cheers, Vlad. One more for
Cheers.
this.
Cheers,
Here's
buddy.
to summertime, Friday afternoon,
Yes, indeed.
and good music. And you're in for a lot of good music today, folks. We're going to be talking about um, it's Prairie. I got to get this right. I always get it wrong. It's Pine and Prairie. For some
Yep.
reason, I kept flip flopping them around. Pine and Prairie, and this was released in the year 2020.
Yep.
Is that correct?
Yeah.
Yeah.
March
So
March of 2020, best
March
time
of
to release a
2020,
record.
which is a really tough time to release an album, but that's why we're here. We're here to celebrate stuff that maybe fell through the cracks a little bit, especially during that time. And before we dive into the music and everything, for folks who aren't familiar with you and what you do and where you're from, could you give everybody a little bit of a bio, kind of where you grew up, how you got into music, and where this album kind of fits on that timeline?
Sure. I'm Vlad. I was actually born in St. Petersburg, Russia, and we got out during kind of the main diaspora of 1989, and there was always music in the household and in our apartment. I remember my parents always having guests over, and there was always a couple of guitars being passed around. And in those days, you called folk singers bards because they usually were also actors or clowns or other performers. Or so it was. A folk singer was always multidisciplinary.
This is
And
still over in Russia, correct?
yeah, so I was
Okay,
five
wow.
years old when we moved to the States, and my parents always, they always emphasized the arts. So I was in classical piano as a kid, and that was my biggest regret was quitting lessons because I didn't need them, and yeah, biggest regret of my life.
There's still time.
There's still time.
Yep.
So I've been doing theater in the Twin Cities, theater and dance for a long time since I was a teenager, and I think folk music was just kind of a natural, I guess, kind of natural manifesto. It's
Hmm.
I was really active in theater a few years ago, and I was just doing one play after the next, and it got absolutely exhausting. exhausting. And I just needed a new creative outlet where I could create and write on my own time and perform without having to, coordinate my schedule with so many other people, which is half the nature of the beast with theater is logistics. And
That's right.
I was completely run down, and so the guitar was just really like the story box that where you could just really do theater, just with a new medium, I suppose.
I like
So
that story box. That's a great term. I love it, and it kind of fits in with what you were saying about just what it was like in Russia for like the folk singer was also the bard, or was also the actor,
yeah,
and
yep.
just even before we got on, we talked a little bit about how so much of this is storytelling. So is that something that just is a natural thing for you? Are you a writer as well?
I don't think so. I hope to be someday. I've always been, I guess, compelled by stories and poetry and classic literature, and so I guess the story is kind of the fundamental, I guess, the anchor of it all for me. And so that's, I knew two things. I knew that I was never going to be a master musician, and I knew that I was never going to sing well. And so I had to focus on the story as the, I guess, the key component of creating music.
Well, before we dive into these stories, I want to just say that I might disagree a bit with not singing great and master musician. I feel like it's all relative,
Okay.
and it's all about the story itself. I think like and
Yeah.
we know from our lots of folk singers out there. You don't have to have a great voice, Bob Dylan. Neil Young. To tell a great story, and the music can be absolutely beautiful without knowing all the theory behind it or anything like that. It's just a part of the how we speak. So speaking of that, I think I can speak for everybody that we're looking forward to hearing some music here. So the first song that we have lined up is "Among the Sons and Daughters of the Northern Plains," and I'd love to hear anything you have to say about this before we give it a listen.
Oh, it was, I had a melody, and it was just kind of lingering in my mind, and in my heart. I was connected with it, and then I couldn't find the words. And at the time, I was going down to help out, to this place called Lions Creek Gardens in St. Peter, Minnesota, and I just started driving down these random dirt farm roads, um, and stopped, pulled over to the side of the road, grabbed the guitar, started playing the melody again, and the words just flushed themselves out in a
Oh
minute.
wow! And see, while you're sitting there on the side of the road with your guitar,
Yep.
inspiration struck, and you just you took advantage.
Yes. Yep.
That's amazing.
And
Awesome.
that's
Cool.
it. Yep.
Well, we're gonna give it a spin, folks. If you're out there listening, we're toasting to you too, Lynn. She's toasting us with a pilsner from Greenville, South Carolina. Thanks,
All
Lynn.
right. Thank you, Lynn.
And feel free to jump into the comments while we listen to the music because this is really a musical conversation. We're enjoying it and we're commenting. And if you have questions for Vlad, you can throw them in there. We'll try to get to all of them. But for now, let's give it a spin. This is Vlad Messing, "Among the Sons and Daughters of the Northern Plains," here on the Back Catalog Listening Party.
Held captive by the unknowns of tomorrow, they were in burden scared, a burden shared. We were commoners spotting cardinals in the springtime chasing gardens. And there ain't none one among us who ain't cared. And there was loss, and there was birth, and there was heartache. There was laughter in full rooms, heads high on hoods. Arms wrapped, bark of birch, in apartments that were our church. Among the sons and daughters of these northern plains, among the sons and daughters of these northern plains. And I'll be damned if moving seemed to solve things. Best stay put where my losses ain't at loss. Things I don't understand but know, loved even when I choose wrong. Among the sons and daughters of these northern plains, there's too many precious hours I wasted. Too many folks I've wronged hold liens against my name. They forgive with no regret and fill my pocket with prairie sunset. Among the sons and daughters of these northern plains, among the sons and daughters of these northern plains.
Vlad Messing, Among the Sons and Daughters of the Northern Plains, here on the Back Catalog Listening Party. This is from his 2020 release, Pine and Prairie, which we were just looking at the cover here. It's a beautiful piece of artwork. And our friend Chris asked, Vlad, you're in St. Paul. Why album cover has Minneapolis, Minnesota written on it? For those who are just listening, there's a beautiful picture of a stove, like a kind of a wood-burning stove, and underneath it says Minneapolis, Minnesota. So
I love that. Only a Twin Cityan would ask that question, which is so
right.
Well, at the time, I was living in Minneapolis, and I think that was one of those things where my buddy Alex Hathaway is an artist, mask maker, theater teacher that made that album art, and you just kind of delegate. I told him I wanted a wood stove and told him the title, and he knew me well enough to kind of, get the aesthetic, but I wasn't going to micromanage him, so that was his choice. It was the choice of the artist.
It was the choice of the artist. All right. Well,
Yep.
Here in the Twin Cities, it's probably the only place that anyone would even ask a question. That's totally true. And it looks like our friend Luc LeBlanc is in the house. Hey, Luc. Good to see you there. I want to say, while we're on that topic of the artwork, that it definitely kind of evokes a feeling, just like your music does. And when you were giving him that direction, did you kind of give him any more than just the wood stove bit? Did you send him the songs or anything like that? Or
I was noodling around with the songs, and they were more or less demos at the time. But Alex Hathaway had spent enough time around with me around bonfires and cooking a steak on a cast over the fire, and so I think he just kind of got the feel of it and captured it.
Yeah, well, it definitely feels like the songs sound, or it looks like the sounds sound. So I think he nailed it on that one for sure. And there really is this. Obviously the album's called Pine and Prairie, and we got this wood stove. And you're driving down, and you're pulling your guitar on the side of the road on the prairie. Like geography, probably partly an inspiration, but how did when you said your family moved here when you were about 5? Have you always been in the Twin Cities area? And Oh, go ahead.
No, I'm sorry. Go ahead. Finish
Well, I
your
was just going
question.
to ask, like,
Yep.
about your relationship, I guess, with the kind of Upper Midwest, because it really feels to me, as others will hear as we listen to these songs, that a big part of the thread that runs through all these songs is this location up here in Minnesota.
Yeah. We set like any immigrant. We immigrant family. We settled along the eastern seaboard. We settled in Connecticut, and then my parents were just hitting a brick wall in every direction they went. So we moved to Minnesota in '95. They took a trip out here first, just the two of them, and they've just fell in love with Minnesota. Everything about it. The people, they took a trip up to the North Shore, and they came back and they said, we're moving to Minnesota, and packed up my sister and I, and our
Okay,
little
then.
cocker. We had a little cocker spaniel, and they just like, and they had nothing at the time. They literally had to start completely over, and they just fell in love with Minnesota. And so it's just, I've been here since I was 10 years old, and this is home. I hope to never leave. I don't think I ever would leave. And so yeah, I mean, these songs are probably more or less, just integral to that overall process of being a Minnesotan. And it was called Pine and Prairie, pine for kind of our deciduous and coniferous north,
Mm-hmm.
and then prairie for our native prairie and savanna habitats that roam, that did roam
Yeah.
naturally. That there's a lot of initiatives to restore our natural prairie and oak savanna habitat throughout southern Minnesota. So
Yeah. Well, that's awesome. Well, you can definitely feel that connection, and that's interesting to hear. Just your backstory as we listen to these songs, and kind of you take us on this musical journey lyrically and musically. It helps kind of put it in a place. And if you're liking what you're hearing, please let us know in the comments. It looks like our friend Joni is here now. Hey, Joni, good to see you. And if you have any questions for Vlad, definitely put those in the comments as well. But let's just keep going. So we're gonna move from the plains to maybe somewhere more west here with a song called Cowboy. Anything you want to say about this?
This song is another one that, one thing about every song on this record, it was very unforced, and I was in like a very particular place in life where they just all kind of popped. And Cowboy was just a song about uh, letting go and allowing yourself to be vulnerable, and just accepting your a character, accepting their imperfections, and being 100% okay with it.
Right on. All right, well, let's give it a listen. This is Vlad Messing with Cowboy here on the Back Catalog Listening Party.
He walked in through the back door, knowing things ain't too good. It was another long night shift, then splitting their winter wood. And she was standing idly, full of mercy, waiting on the kettle in the latest fight. But I'm through hell, hoping the dust will settle. And he stood up, fierce and mighty man of his beloved's fear. Hell, he stood upright, far too tough for her honest volunteers. But the truth is, even cowboys sometimes cry. And the truth is, cowboys often need to cry. It weren't too good a season now, the pasture's bleak and numb. The northwest winds uprooted bulbs, the work was quickly done. With the bottle in his hand, he prophesied on Midnight Rock. He ain't need no sun, got his own key to Earth's lock. But the truth is, even cowboys sometimes cry. And the truth is, cowboys often need to cry. Said he's too strong for changing seasons, he's too strong for death. He's high above horizon, wind's got nothing on his breath. He's two sheets to the wind, and he can balance his his own scales as he persuades a banker of bullshit survival tales. Man, the truth is even cowboys sometimes cry. And the truth is cowboys often need to cry. He's riding the high saddle mount, but trucking long low tide. Now quit your bragging, sonny. Braggers got too much to hide. There ain't no shame in loneliness, ain't no shame in defeat, so long as early the next morning you're the governor of your own seat. Man, the truth is even cowboys sometimes cry. Hell, the truth is cowboys often need to cry.
Yes, that Vlad Messing with Cowboy here on the back catalog listening party from his 2020 release. And, our co-host, Mother Banjo, checking in during that one. Hey, Ellen, down in Cedar Falls, Iowa, says sounding great. And while we were listening to that, we also got a great question from Joe, who was picking up, I think, on the storytelling aspects of your music, Vlad. And asks, who are your favorite or most influential writers, playwrights, balladeers?
Ooh, that is a loaded question, my friend. I'm a sucker for Shakespeare. I love the classics. I love F. Scott Fitzgerald and Hemingway and Emily Dickinson. I love the beatnik poets, Allen Ginsberg and Jack Kerouac. As far as folk music is concerned, I love everything that America started creating from the 1850s to today. I think it's absolutely extraordinary how the bedrock of pop and American folk is really was promulgated by by African American folks on the plantations, and the hymns, and just the natural beats that started deriving while working in the fields, and then the way that morphed with the American guitar and creating new scales, and how everything eventually evolved into jazz. So I guess like folk music that is quintessentially American. I love Cisco and Woody Guthrie and Ramblin' Jack Elliott, and that all led to the '60s folk revival. And so I'm ranting right now, but
no, it's great. He said balladeers. He said playwrights. You're covering them all. I mean, this is clearly a big part of your of what draws you to this music. So we appreciate hearing about that. And as far as that guitar style, I love that kind of finger picking stuff. Where did the guitar? When did the guitar enter your life? And what kind of led to that as your kind of instrument of choice?
I don't know. There was a guitar underneath my parents' bed when I was just a toddler, and I was always intimidated by it. And I remember folks. So there would be a friend of my parents that would be always sitting at the dinner table as a guest, and they'd be playing and singing, the basic chords, and there was the story accompaniment, and that was the song. And then I got a guitar when I was 18 years old on January 1st, 2003, and it just, I guess, became a story box.
Yeah.
You just pick it up and you don't really put it down, and you don't have the discipline to learn music theory. But I just the major chords told they reflected and still reflect the happy sentiments, and the minor chords reflect the sad elements of storytelling, and then the seventh chords kind of give it a little twang, and the seventh chords also tell the stories of something that's maybe a little more mysterious and derailed. and then you got your diminished chords, and those reflect the stories of something that is not defined or something that is unknown and mysterious. And so between those four things, you got your quad of storytelling. You got your happy, you got your sad, you got your funky, and you have your unknown.
I love it. I love it. Well, I love that that ties in so well with this idea that it's a story box, and you have even equating the different sounds to the different chords. That's a really cool approach, and I think for aspiring songwriters out there, that's not a bad way to start if you're struggling. So think about what you're trying to get across emotionally, and what part of the story you're at, and you can think of as those chords and the music as helping you tell that story. Looks like Vlad may be frozen here on our end, but while that's happening, I would want to say hello to Becky, who says peaceful, love this vibe, referring to that last track, and I agree, Becky. And Chris says old soul, nice. Which you feel that way. This clearly he's got some interesting perspective, and maybe we'll hear more about that. His perspective as someone from another country coming here too. I was curious to ask Vlad about this next song. Which why don't we give it a listen to first as he makes his way back into the studio here. The song that we're gonna listen to next is a track called Americana. Speaking of all of this stuff, of these things, Americana. I'm really curious to see how he kind of ties all those things in together. This is a song that I've actually heard before, and I know you're going to love the hook on this one. This one stays with me, and hopefully he'll be back to discuss it when the song is over. But until then, let's give Vlad Messing Americana a spin here on the Back Catalog Listening Party.
She was a troubadour type, or her father's hat, and she'd kiss you and run and never look back. She'd leave you small notes that made your heart pound, and pretend she didn't know what you were talking about. Yeah, she cussed like a sailor, drank her whiskey neat, ran around town in her bare feet. Such an old wise soul and so well read, she liked to smell flowers before going to bed. Americana, oh Americana, you gonna run, I know you're gonna, and I'll be around at least a while, carrying the same stone mile after mile after mile.
Understood without using words. In the back country where silence was observed, every time she filled yours up first. A love that hurt so much it was a damn near curse.
Promises were made before you parted ways, then things changed and they were never the same. How long till that sun comes up? How long must one hold out their cup? Americana, oh Americana, you gonna run, I know you're gonna, and I'll be around at least a while, carrying the same stone mile after mile after mile. Now she stretched her wings and tested your strength. You ain't win her heart, but have her to thank. The day's too damn dark and that wind blows heavy. The next one won't pass, just hold the reins steady. Americana, Americana, you're gonna run, I know you're gonna, and I'll be around, at least a while, carrying the same stone mile after mile after mile. Same stone mile after mile after mile.
Beautiful. That is Vlad Messing with Americana here on the Back Catalog Listening Party from his 2020 release Pine and Prairie. And people loving that one. Connie says, beautiful song. Our friend Becky Schlegel says, I could listen to this all day. Would love to see a live show. And Joni says, love the harmonica. That is just a gorgeous, gorgeous song. And part of it comes from another voice that we hear. And Chris says, is that a friend helping out on harmony?
Yep.
Who's that singing with you?
That's Nikki Pepper.
All right. Well, she sounds great.
Singer, songwriter, painter, just an extraordinary creator, artist. Her and I were playing a lot of gigs back at that time, and she hopped in.
That it adds a really great element, and I just love the hook of that song. I was lucky enough to play a show with you a few months back, and this song still pops in my head from time to time. Just that chorus, man, it really is infectious. So before we lost you there briefly, I was kind of talking about this whole album having this, this kind of American Prairie vibe. And I was thinking about you being from another country and coming here. And I just was really curious to hear what you had to say about this song and where it came from.
Again, this is one of those songs that wrote itself very quickly. You kind of when that happens, you just kind of got to get out of the way. That happens very rarely for me anyway. It was just a story. I literally just, I keep a Microsoft Word document where I keep all of my writing, and I've kept it for 15 years now. And
wow.
That's where I keep like all my lyrics, just any short stories, anything that I write is all in this one document, and it's called writing.
That's what it says on your on your desktop. It just says writing.
Yeah, that's the name of the Microsoft Word document, and
I love it.
It's got to be several. It's got to be several hundred pages by now. And there was a friend of mine.
Looks like we might have lost Vlad again here. Until he comes back, though, I do want to say that you can actually pick up this album a couple different ways. You can purchase Pine and Prairie directly by just throwing $15 at his and your mailing address in his Venmo, which is just at Vlad Messing, VLADMESSING. Or you can get the high-res digital files at vladmessing.bandcamp.com. I've got a link there in the comments. And I think you'll enjoy hearing it in all its glory. It's got just like the wide open prairies he's talking about. There's just a lot of wonderful space in this recording, and hopefully his mic is back, and we can ask about that recording process. Can you hear us, Vlad?
Can you hear me, Tony?
I can.
Okay, sorry, lost you.
No problem. Maybe a better spot in the house for Wi-Fi.
Yeah. Although I lost you earlier for a minute because the iPhone was getting too hot. But yeah, I don't know how much of that you heard or didn't hear. But again, a lot of a theme of leaving home and coming home, and the song wrote itself very quickly. Just this concept of going on a road trip and leaving everything behind, but still keeping things with you. And are you leaving those things behind if you're still kind of carrying them in your heart and bringing them home with you? And that, I guess that was just kind of the manifesto. Was that song?
Excellent. Excellent. Well, yeah. The other question I had then was about the recording itself. Um, I hear another guitar in there. And obviously, we had Nikki there on that last
Yep.
track singing harmonies. Can you talk about the personnel and where this project came together?
The guitar's Blair Krevnick, just an extraordinary guitar player. The guy that everybody calls, the guy who is probably way too busy right now. But
Wonderful session.
I met Blair. Yeah, and it was a place called Future Condo Recording Studio in South Minneapolis. Two sound techies, John Miller and John Peters. And I was very budget constrained, so we literally went in and we tracked it in a day and a half, and then we pulled a couple of all-nighters just mastering it, or mixing it, and then we mastered it again in one session, and that was it, and that was the record.
Wow. Well, it's certainly. I was mentioning while we were disconnected there that it has this kind of a lot of space, and it's almost like the two of you are playing in the room at the same time. Is that were you just doing it, tracking it live?
That's correct. And I think most of the songs were after tracking it the first or the second time, they were keepers. There was no it was just we had played the songs. Blair he was going on his last year playing lead guitar at the Minnesota singer-songwriter showcase at Plums, hosted by Nick Hensley. And so I was playing those songs. I felt really good about them. I knew that they were meaningful, and so I was playing like a player. I was literally going every single week, familiar with songs. Push came to shove to go into the studio and cut them. It happened just very quickly.
That's great. Well, and it doesn't hurt to have a talent like Blair. I'll just say that when I met you and we talked a little bit about your project the first time, I was surprised to hear that name because I actually went to grade school back in St. Paul with Blair.
Yep.
I've known him pretty much my whole life, and it's so great to see all the great things that he's done. And he really does add a lot of great textures to this project. Was there anybody else that made a cameo at all on this record?
No.
Cool.
Myself and Blair and Nikki. That's it.
Fantastic. Well, it sounds wonderful. People are loving it. Like I said, if you're interested in supporting Vlad or getting the high res version, so you can put it in, put your headphones on and enjoy just the organic qualities of those story boxes and his wonderful voice. You can purchase it directly by just sending $15 to his Venmo with your address, which is in the comments, or you can go to bandcamp.com, vladmessing.bandcamp.com, and pick it up. It sounds fantastic, and I love the organic nature of it. And it doesn't surprise me at all that you just went in there and had those musical conversations live in the studio. You can feel it, and it adds a lot. But speaking of the music, I want to make sure we get to all the tracks here today. So the next tune that we have lined up is Madeline, and anything you want to say about this one before we give it a spin? Seems that we have lost Vlad again, but no worries. We will listen to the song and then we will hear more about it. So while we're waiting for that, let's give it a listen. Vlad Messing, Madeline, here on the Back Catalog Listening Party.
These haggard sheets allows me to walk through and all clarity is coiled. Only one thing feels true. I got this needle and this dusty record, and I'ma make it spin. Oh, where do you roam, Madeline? The day's work behind me now, but ain't none much got done. 'Cause the thought of you made my heart burn. My mind was on the run, on the front stoop of the witch doctor. I begged to be let in. Where do you roam, Madeline? Where do you roam, sweet Madeline? What a fine wall I constructed, can't hear nobody shout. And I left all truth on one side and locked myself right out. And I lost because I was trying so goddamn hard to win. Oh, where do you roam, Madeline? Won't you take it a bit further? I wanna learn, I wanna burn, I wanna pick up what I left behind, put it in front and make it turn. When you remove all the colors, make it black and white begin. Oh, where do you roam, Madeline? Oh, where do you roam, sweet Madeline?
That is Vlad Messing with Madeline here on the Back Catalog Listening Party. We're revisiting his 2020 release, Pine Prairie, and you are back, Vlad. Great to have you back. What I had asked, and I don't know if maybe you started answering but didn't get to yet, was just to talk a little bit more about this tune that we just listened to, Madeline. It's beautiful.
It was a love song. It was a silly infatuation. It was not actual true love. It was a theater story, and but that song came out of it nonetheless. Again, it was one of the ones that just kind of flushed itself out. And we were doing a show. I was in a show at the Southern Theater at the time that we toured around Minnesota as well. It was with a theater maker named John Ferguson, and we were doing a Renaissance Venetian piece called The Venetian Twins, and it was in the form of commedia dell'arte. And in that theater genre, you have multiple characters, one of which are the lovers, and the lovers think they're in love, but really they're just in love with the idea of being in love. And so that's kind of just how that song was born. It was really silly, but it felt heartfelt enough where you can where I tricked myself into believing that it was actually meaningful. So it probably sounds meaningful and heartfelt to the listener, but I know for me that it didn't come from an honest place. It came from a place of pretending.
Well, I mean, that's a lot of what storytelling is about, right? Most fiction books are maybe little slivers of truth, but mostly just telling about, bigger stories, with common threads about the human condition. And one of the nice things about art in general is how, you can make it mean whatever. when it's good art, when it leaves that door open, you can make it about anything you want it to be. So that's interesting that you mentioned even kind of tricking yourself to believe in it, because that's one of the roles, I think, of a songwriter, is to get into character and really try to sell the story.
Sure.
And Becky Schlegel says, "Wow." And so simple, pure, it's beautiful, and agreed. So yeah, it doesn't have to be your own story to be a good one. It's like if you can get into, and maybe that's the actor in you too.
Yeah.
That you can get in that headspace um, and tell somebody else's story. So. Wonderful. And Chris is wondering about that piano playing that you left on the table,
Oh,
that you were regretting you're not pursuing that. He asks,
um,
playing any piano these days?
I just lugged one of those upright pianos that you find on Craigslist. You find them for free, but you got to pay for the moving fee.
Sure.
And so I just did that. And so this winter, I think I'm going to go back to the drawing table and get the books out from my childhood and actually start getting back into music theory and the piano.
Fantastic. Fantastic. Yeah. I mean, there just more story boxes out there, right? It's just this
Correct.
one is just in a different form. And
Correct.
yeah, and Joni has a great comment here, I think, about talking about what we were talking about, the idea of writing this kind of fiction. And she says that tricking can certainly happen in actual relationships as well, one side or both.
Yeah.
That is very true. And if you like what you hear, we'd love to hear from you in the comments. We still have a little time left here, and we have one more song to get to. This hour is going by really fast. It's been a ton of fun chatting with you, but I want to make sure before we go any further that we give a shout out to the people who make this show possible every week, and that's our Patreon community. Ellen, my co-host, who couldn't be here today, and I started this back in March of 2020, right when the CD or album was released. So we feel your pain, Vlad,
Thank you.
and are so grateful that we can help bring it back into the world. Um, but the idea was about how this music and these stories really bring people together in a way that, like, theater can bring people together and things like that. But art is at the heart of what we do here, and it's not something that happens in a vacuum. It happens together. And there was a group of folks that decided they wanted, even when the world opened back up, they wanted to keep meeting here every Friday to nerd out about music, put our headphones on, and listen to all the little details and talk about, who's playing on what and who produced the record and all that kind of stuff. And so we're so grateful for our Patreon community. I want to give a big shout out to Penny, Ann, Alinda, Bevan, Connie, Vaughn, Alan, Chris, Alex, Becky, Galen, Peggy, Joe, Jim, Beverly, and John, Fred, Tim, Sarah, David, Jocelyn, Court, Matt, Steve, Mark, the Homestead Pick and Parlor, Severin, Lynn, Mary, Many Tracks, Nikki, Joni, David, Sarah C., CJ, and Wiley. And maybe you, if you'd be interested in being part of this community. This is Ellen and I say this every week. This is our favorite hour every week, and it's because we get to meet wonderful artists like you, Vlad, and we get to really deep dive into the creation of this stuff and talk about where it comes from and how it kind of transforms. Like the idea of the back catalog is that you have this piece of art that you're doing, but you don't maybe know what it is until it gets out in the world. And so it's great to hear your perspective on these things a few years later. But anyways, if you're interested in joining the party, you can go to patreon.com/backcatalog listening party. I'll throw a link in the comments. And we also keep show notes at backcatalog.listeningparty.com, where you can find links to things like who the artist was, and if Blair Krevenek has a website, we'll get that on there. Things like that, so you can keep digging in there. And if you become a Patreon supporter soon, you're eligible for one of these swanky back catalog listening party pint glasses that we just got last week. Mine is unfortunately empty now because I was enjoying that too much. But these are something that we decided to print up and send out as a kind of a physical connection with all of us out there listening together. We can, whatever it might be in your glass, we can share that together. So, but we want to get to one more song here before we say goodbye. And the last song that we have queued up here is called "The Mill." Is there anything that you want to say about this tune before we?
This is one I don't play live too often because you have to be specifically in a listening room with an attentive audience. But it was inspired. It was written in the form of a limerick. So it's got a Celtic meter to it. It was inspired by the General Mill flour mill explosion of the late 1800s. And the stories about this character who was working at the mill. The explosion caused him to lose his eyesight, but because he's so in love, and he's got this partner in his life, at the end he can actually see colors of the world better when he's blind than when he was actually able to see. And in the process of this flour mill explosion, he saved several people from their fate. So that's kind of what the story's about.
Wow. And is this a fictional story, or is like the character? I know that you mentioned the actual historical event, but
Oh no, it's so I guess it's historical fiction.
I love it. I love it. Well, that's a great setup, and everybody listen intently now. We're going to be in our back catalog listening room, so that's another advantage of having headphones on at home, is we can really give this story a good listen. This is Vlad Messing, The Mill, here on the back catalog listening party.
His hands are calloused, his tongue is tied. The banker drew lines in the mud as he stood there a while, winding his dial, his veins fueled with the strength of his grandmother's blood. As he makes his way back past the fields torn black, one light in the house remained lit, and he saw his wife's face, and his heart made haste, for she was why he never quit. He's the black man in town who makes his way around. How do you do, miss? Good morning, sir. Yes, ma'am. But he damn well knows when those dark winds blow, his innocence will be his guilt again. He worked at the mill, crushing grain for the still, where the water meets the stone, meets the earth. 12 hours each day, paving the way to give his sons a free birth. Once upon a spark, midst the press chambers dark, a combustion, a flame, the mill's dug. Fire consumed the air, no escape from the flare, and turned the man within to rust. But possessed by a wave, a furious brave, he saved 7 men from their ghosts. But within that night shined a light too bright, sees nothing but darkness at most. Now he sits on the porch, holding a torch, reciting color through smell. And his wife takes his hand, and together they stand, and he ain't never seen color so well. He ain't never seen color so well, and he ain't never seen color so well.
Oh, yeah, that's Vlad Messing with The Mill from his 2020 release, Pine Prairie, which we have been revisiting this past hour here on the Back Catalog Listening Party. That was a gorgeous story, Vlad. Thanks for sharing that one with us.
Thank you.
And thanks for sharing this hour with us. It went by fast, and man, we just touched the surface here of your album, and people who are interested in learning more about you, including Chris, who asked Vlad any gigs coming up. Where's the best place to send them?
The woodshop sessions on October 8th is going to be the next gig. I'm kind of going to go back into hiding and back to the drawing board a little bit to try to get some writing and creating done. But October 8th in St. Paul, and I'll post about that on my Instagram. If you follow my Instagram account, I basically only use it for, promoting gigs, and I'm at Vlad Messing.
Excellent. We will put a link to that in the show notes. That's going to be at backcataloglisteningparty.com/173. And I reckon they could probably find that on your website as well. I did have a banner here.
Yeah.
Vlad has a website, vladmessingmusic.com, where you could find out about that and more dates coming up. And any other things coming up that you want to talk about?
No, it's going to be back to the drawing board. I hope to cut a record this winter, and Tony ask you to play banjo on it.
It'd be my honor, Vlad. I'd be more than happy to participate. This is great, and we want to thank everybody for being here. Connie says, "Great show with great music." Thanks, Connie. It's so great to have you here week after week, and you too, Joni. She says, "Thank you, Vlad. Thank you, Tony, for hosting the live show this Friday. What another wonderful show. Just a joy." And I agree. This hour is really what it's all about for me. And it wouldn't be that way if it wasn't for guests like you, Vlad, and for all of you out there joining in the comments, knowing that you're out there with your headphones or nice pair of speakers listening in. And something happens when we listen together. It's so special. So thank you all for being here for another week. Again, my co-host Ellen, aka Mother Banjo, couldn't be here, but I know she would have loved to be here. But she'll probably be checking out the replay, which you can if you're listening in the future at our YouTube channel. Back Catalog, it's just at Back Catalog Listening Party on YouTube. And if you like this show, give it a thumbs up, because it's going to direct more traffic to Vlad's episode, and more people are going to get to hear this album and the stories behind it. So, and you can subscribe to our YouTube channel as well. Every week we get here Friday at 4:00 and we
Cool.
nerd out about music. It's a really special thing, and it's all because of you, for being here, Vlad, and for you folks out there listening. So on behalf of Ellen, thanks again for being here. We hope you have a wonderful rest of your weekend, and until next week, cheers, and keep enjoying all that great music out there. Take care.
Thank you.